With bungalows representing less than 1% of the property market, are they still a good investment? Before jumping into the video, here's some boring facts you might actually find interesting. So, bungalow comes from the Indian word bangla, which means belonging to the Bengal. Now popular with the older generation due to mobility issues, they originally came into the UK in the 18th century, but only really got popular in the 1920s and 30s. Fast forward to today, they're actually becoming quite popular as a residential dwelling for open plan living. Whenever we are looking at whether something's a great investment, one of the first things to look at is good old supply and demand. So we know that demand mostly comes from older generations or mobility issues, stuff like that. But what about the supply chain of everything? So if we go back to 1996, when I was just 5 years old, bungalows only represented around 7% of any new homes getting built that year. Fast forward to 2014, it represented just 1%. Fast forward to today, it is a fraction of 1%, around 0.3% of new developments. But why is this? So a reasonable person might say, well, maybe there's just not the demand for it anymore, right? But that's not actually the case. The demand for these bungalows and even portfolios of bungalows has actually increased quite dramatically, especially condominiums. And I know that's a bit of an American word, but when a developer develops 10, 20 bungalows, it creates a community of people, especially through older generations. So if the demand's got higher, why would they develop less? And this is simply because of the space requirements. So if you think of the UK, we currently build on 3% of the available land in England. Okay, legally we can only build currently on up to 6% of the lands, and we're only utilizing about 50% of that. What does this mean? Well, what it means as a developer is the more per square footage that you can get, the more money you're going to make. If you could develop a 4-bed house instead of a bungalow, and think logically about this, a 4-bed detached house, how much could you sell that for versus a 2-bed bungalow that takes the exact same amount of land space? Ultimately, as a developer, the more floors that you can go up, the more money you're going to make. And obviously the pinnacle of that is city centres, where a developer, if they only develop 10 stories, they're not going to make any money. So they're getting higher and higher and higher. Ultimately, it comes down to the money, not so much the demand for the product. So whether you're really thinking about this as an investment or not is going to depend on your criteria. Now, if you've been watching the channel, you'll know I love boring, vanilla, buy to lets. However, that's really for a long-term hold. So let's just get it out of the way. Would I purchase a bungalow for a long-term hold? Probably not. Okay, and the reason for that is the price per square foot is going to be too high and the rent's actually quite low. And the rental demand for bungalows is not quite the same as purchase demand for bungalows. The only time I might go outside of that is for a social living type thing, so an assisted contract. What that means is if the council's got somebody that's got disabilities and they very specifically want that type of property, you can help somebody and actually get paid quite a lot of money. But for the everyday investment, no, I stick away from them. 2 to 4-bed houses, boring, vanilla, buy-to-lets. But what about as a flip? Before we get into yes or no, what is a flip? The most typical one is when you purchase something, refurbish it, and sell it on. But there's a lot more. You can not buy, refurbish, and sell. You can buy and sell. You can do loads of different things on that, or you can develop, whatever it is. All of those come under flip. That is where I would be interested. Now, if you've been to many bungalows recently and you're talking, I am very much stereotyping here, to good old Gladys, and you ask, well, how's the bathroom? How's everything? Oh yeah, the bathroom's lovely. Better to ask when it was last updated in 1857, when Gladys was just 53 years old, right? The thing is, people's concept of what's nice and not changes over time because it's an opinion. So no longer are swirly carpets the thing. Ask me in 5 years, maybe that's the in thing right now. The avocado bath set, whilst it's beautiful, is not really what people are looking for right now. So the reason why this is important is there's a great opportunity to enhance the value of that property to today's standard, and people will pay for it. Often because bungalows right now represent either somebody's last property, being blunt about it, and so people are willing to put more money into that because there's nothing else to spend the money on, or younger individuals that want the open plan lifestyle. Usually it's a bit more hipstery, modern, techy, and people are willing to spend more money for that as well. So would I purchase it for that? Yes. The other thing I really like about bungalows is, guess what they don't have? An upper level. But because of where they were built and how they were built, I'm not talking the new build developments, the older ones, they're really built in quite a solid frame, and so going up another level is actually relatively easy, subject to planning. So getting an option on a bungalow subject to planning, or purchasing it and then getting planning on it, is a really good way to go. On top of that, in the more wealthy areas, I'm not saying you should do this, by the way, but in the more wealthy areas where there's bigger bungalows, there's either a lot of land that comes with them and you can develop on that, or what a lot of people do is, because it is now such a wealthy area, people will buy the bungalow for the sole purpose of knocking it down, getting planning, and then building a really beautiful home on it. Now, talking from a purely financial point of view, that is going to be a good investment. The key thing to get is that bungalows do not follow the average pound per square foot in the area, because they're not like any other property. It's a very specific demographic, and because of the complete lack of supply, bear in mind over 65s in the UK represent a very high proportion. I'm not saying like 80%, but it's a solid number. And if you think about bungalows representing 0.3% of everything that's built, there's obviously a massive supply demand breakage. And yeah, you know what? People do get to a certain age where they want to go into care, or more of like a block where they're sharing it with a lot of other people, like assisted living. But there's a lot of people, and I imagine myself will be included in this, that wants to hold on to my independence as long as possible. So a bungalow has a huge amount of demand and very low supply. So even as a buy, refurbish and sell on, it could be great. Ultimately, it's going to come down to what you want from the investment. If it is a quick money, quick in, quick out, I think bungalows are going to be a really great strategy. And you know what? They're always a strategy. It's not just 2022, 2023. Every single year, they will get better and better and better and better, because the demand is going up and up and up, but the supply is nowhere near the level. From a rental perspective, no, I wouldn't. For me, it's 2 to 4 bed freehold houses, boring, vanilla, buy-to-lets. And by the way, if you're watching this and you've got 100 grand or more and you want to build your portfolio but you don't have time, put APG, which is my property company, in the comments, APG, and one of the team will be in touch. So let me know if you got value from this video. Let me know if you want me to talk about more unique investments as I go through, and I'll do more videos on there. If you did get value, make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe if you're new to the channel, and of course, the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video.